We rarely get to say goodbye at the movies anymore, especially in superhero films. Anything is possible, everything is reversible, and goodbye is only temporary, in a world full of multiverses, quantum realms, and infinity stones that can make literally anything happen. If Deadpool wants to crack some jokes with Wolverine, despite a perfectly satisfying ending in Logan, there's a way to make him come back from the dead, no problem. Almost immediately after Tony Stark snapped himself to death, the audience was wondering how Robert Downey Jr. could return to the MCU. But the Guardians of the Galaxy have always stood out from the crowd and played by their own rules. While the MCU was still stuck on Earth, the Guardians, a little-known ragtag group of misfits that came together to create an odd but lovely family, were out patrolling the skies. James Gunn took a fringe Marvel team up and turned them the most engaging sector of the Marvel Universe, more often than not, telling their own self-contained story away from the larger MCU puzzle pieces, and was far better for it. Guardians of the Galaxy has always been Gunn's baby, and now that he's leaving to run DC, it's time for him to say goodbye to this crew, and he does so in a satisfying way with Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3, which is full of heart, humor, and action that feels like something only Gunn could create. Will we see some of these characters again in the future? Almost certainly. But now that Gunn is no longer captain, Volume 3 feels like the last time we'll see these characters in this light, and Gunn gives them a fitting send-off. We rejoin the Guardians on Nowhere, where they have established a comfortable community and home base. When Adam Warlock attacks the team, the Guardians embark on a new mission that leads them to the High Evolutionary, a man with a god complex who experiments on living creatures to create a perfect society. The High Evolutionary is also responsible for Rocket Raccoon's transformation into the character he is today, a history that Rocket has avoided throughout the series, but which Volume 3 eventually looks into. Rocket is the star of the show in this third installment, and his past is a heartbreaking story that Gunn manages to make effective, despite the fact that it is about a raccoon and his animal friends. This is a narrative that Guardians of the Galaxy has been hinting at for a decade, and Gunn manages to make it one of the most heartbreaking storylines ever presented in the MCU. In addition to Rocket's history, there is a one-sided love story between Peter Quill and Gamora, who has no memory of her romantic past with the Star-Lord. Gunn's portrayal of this dynamic is really sensitive, and it's a form of relationship we don't see in movies very often. A person loves another, but that person they loved is no longer the same person. While yes, relationships often end this way over time, rather than because one person's power-hungry father knocked them off a magical mountain, Gunn makes these emotions really resonate. And to his credit, Pratt plays these moments with honesty and deep pain that surprises you. As the conclusion of this group's story, and with the Guardians now larger than ever, James Gunn has to balance quite a bit, but for the most part he handles this challenge well. While Volume 3 focuses primarily on Rocket and Quill, the larger journey allows for each character to have their own big moments, even if there's no time to give them their own individual arcs. But this structure works well, especially with such a large cast. Drax, Mantis, and Nebula are often put together in hilarious combinations that also speak to their greater gifts within the group. And we also get just the right amount of the newer additions in Kraglin and the adorable good dog Cosmo. Gunn has to juggle a lot with this finale, but once again, he shows he's a master at knowing exactly how to work with a large ensemble. Gunn finds the best way to finish each of these characters' storylines in a way that seems completely consistent with where they've been headed all along. While the editing of Volume 3 can often be a mess, with the film flying back and forth between Rocket's past and the Guardians' most recent mission with no real rhyme or reason, it's slightly distracting, but still manages to make an overall successful combination of stories. Even yet, Gunn may have a little too much on his plate with this one. Despite a 2.5-hour running duration, Poulter's Adam Warlock gets lost in the shuffle. Warlock has been hinted at throughout the trilogy, and his appearance here feels like a now or never situation. Warlock essentially sets the plot in action, and while he is present throughout, he never completely fits in with the rest of the story in a practical sense. Poulter is entertaining in a character that casts him as powerful, but a dummy. But given how many spinning plates Gunn has to whirl, it's even more amazing that this golden one is the only one that falters. However, the same cannot be said of Iwuji's High Evolutionary, a menacing villain who breaks Marvel's recent trend of understandable antagonists, as Iwuji goes full-on monster here. The High Evolutionary's goal is perfection, and the means by which he goes after that desire can be disturbing and strange, fitting right into Gunn's darker instincts, as the High Evolutionary has a face that appears stretched onto his scalp, and a penchant for making strange animal hybrid machines that look like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle rejects, made by Toy Story's maniac, child Sid Phillips. But while saying goodbye is difficult, it's also refreshing to do so. Despite this group having seemingly nothing in common, over the last decade, Gunn has written this group in a way that makes them truly feel like a family that loves and cares for each other. This isn't cynical in the way the previous films could be at times, but rather, Volume 3 taps into the profound affection that each member of this team has for one another. Whatever character combination we get, that friendship runs through it, and we know that each of these teammates would risk their lives for the sake of the others. It's that passion and devotion that makes the Guardians the best superhero team up in the MCU. It is wonderful that this team gets to conclude their time together, on their own terms, with an ending as fitting and satisfying as this one is. Even more of a loss than this team is Gunn, who Marvel took a chance on by allowing the writer-director, who had previously only made weirdo films like Super and Slither, to take a rarely known team of characters and turn them into one of the most beloved segments of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In many respects, Gunn introduced comedy to the MCU, a love amongst characters, and a genuine concern for the music used in these films, all of which have permeated the rest of the MCU. It's nothing short of incredible what he's done with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, taking characters nobody knew and transforming them into the best part of this world. After a fairly disappointing Phase 4 and a lackluster start to Phase 5, with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Gunn exits the MCU by showing Marvel what lessons they should learn from his work in this trilogy. These films should be led by the heart, not by the inevitable third-act fight sequence, or the attempts to set up the next decade of content. Volume 3 shows how much better the MCU's when Marvel lets a creator see out their vision, rather than imposing their vision on the creator. If anything, the most painful loss of Volume 3 is of Gunn. Even after 3 films in this universe, he managed to make all of these films feel fresh and unique, never watering down our love for this group, and got out before he was left spinning his wheels. The MCU has had plenty of great directors in this universe, but no one has taken full advantage of the freedom and potential of this universe quite like Gunn, and that ambition, vision, and sense of heart and humor will be missed in this world. Guardians of the Galaxy, Volume 3 isn't only the perfect send-off for this team. It's also the best MCU movie in years, and a reminder of how much fun and moving the Marvel Cinematic Universe can be after a number of disappointments. The Guardians of the Galaxy were the best part of the MCU, and Gunn created a fitting send-off for this gang of misfits. Thanks for watching. To catch all the latest from us, subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as a new video drops. We'll see you in the next one.